His glasses.
Hey, welcome back. Secret House Against Tokyo-based hip-hop art and culture conversations, underground, independent, avant-garde, experimental, abstract stuff. Today we're back with something really wild and interesting for you, as you can see in the title here. Thank you for coming in. A shout out to everybody that we know, all of our patrons, Noname Book Club, Caltrops Press, Extraordinary Rap Podcast, Rap Music Book Podcast, Focus Hip Hop. Who else do we got? Call Out Culture Podcast, as well as Free Music Empire. Yes, that's all of them. Boom. Today we're going to be talking about Celestaphone and Dealers of God's collaborative album, Cult Subterranea. It is 9 songs, 33 minutes. It dropped on 4/20 on April 20th, and we've had this since March.
About a month or so, yeah.
Yeah, since March. And apologies for us not being around so often, but we've been chilling, and we'll be back on it again. I know I say that often, but it's been the plan all year, and we kind of keep on just being like, yeah, let's hit it, and then we don't hit it. But yeah, thank you for the patrons for continuing to join. I also noticed that I did not put some of the new patrons on there. I didn't get notifications for it. I just noticed today. So shout out to Trey Does. Shout out to Monder Venderson, the homie Monder Venderson Mister. And there was also another person. But yeah, you guys will be on the end of the thing as usual. And if you join the Patreon, you make that list. I never remove you. So
yeah, you're on there forever.
Yeah. But yeah, this is a collaborative project. Well, it's a Celestaphone project. With a production credits
type, yeah.
But I don't think it's billed as that. I think it's just Celestaphone, and Dealers of God are a music ensemble from Australia who I wasn't familiar with really until I started looking them up for this. Per what Celestaphone told us, and shout out to Celestaphone for reaching out to us and giving us the album early. We're really happy about that.
Always an honor, yeah.
Yeah, always an honor.
Especially when you're making interesting music like this.
Indeed. And he started this and wrote everything between April 2023 to April 2024. And then the Dealers came in and elevated the production he had done. It's mastered by Dave Cooley, that you guys may know from Mad Villainy and Donuts. Shout out to the God. Amazing. And also features some MC collaborations with Blue, Quelle Chris, and MC Paul Barman. All three great, incredible artists. I've got some more information drops for you before we get into our discussion of it. Celestaphone says this began as an unofficial fulfillment of the unfinished sequel to Harry Horse's 1996 video game, Drowned God, Conspiracy of the Ages. He wanted to create a similar labyrinth of conspiratorial culture during a time of utmost fear and speculation, done in the bed of hip-hop and satire that he is used to and that he fills his music with. There's a really nice snippet as well on the Bandcamp that is starts with a quote saying, "You are chosen. Many times you have lived before, so use wisely your intuition and your wit. Do not believe what you have been taught." After conquering fear, the protagonist MC suddenly visited by all too familiar stereotypical extraterrestrials, claiming to be very real and definitely not part of some military hologram or collective unconsciousness trip. They offer assistance to the MC in channeling non-physical entities they equate to the Judaic concept of Guff and Metatron. And it goes on to say it was very Kabbalistic in nature and made the MC a little sleepy. Party pooping reality like TV station technically entered paid programming block. Yeah, so as you can hear from some of that, the album is quite interesting. It is a concept album, and let me just say this: Celestaphone is a MC, producer, musician, poet, artist. I think out of California. It comes from a musical family background. He produced Young Man's full length, A Year of Octobers, back in 2021. His album Paper Cut from Obit, which features Rap Ferrera, Arm & Hammer, More Mother, and Paul Barman, MC Paul Barman, also aka FKA Young Man, if you weren't familiar with that. Yeah, so he's been there, he's done that type of thing. How are you familiar with Celestaphone?
I don't know. I'm familiar with Celestaphone, but I actually don't know how I'm familiar with Celestaphone. That's definitely one of those artists that I've just known to exist for like a decade now, where it's just like, yeah, this is like an interesting genre-bending musician who makes unusual and idiosyncratic music.
Yeah.
And I mean, you gave some love to the.
It was on my top 10.
To your top 10 from
Papercut from Obit was my dark horse pick in my top 10 in 2023.
Yes. So that was the first one that I'd like actively listened to.
Yeah, I think that's right around. I became familiar with the work because it was suggested to me due to his collaboration with those other artists that I mentioned. Yeah. Obviously, I love all of those artists, and when I was like, oh, they're working with this person, I clocked in, and I was pleasantly surprised at how interesting it was. And after that, I went back, and then I saw the work that they collaborated with Paul Barman producing the album, and also they have another album together, I think, something like that. But yeah,
I mean, knowing this work was inspired by Harry Horse explains a lot, actually.
Okay. I'm not familiar with Harry Horse like that.
A British author, political commentator who apparently made this video game. And if you look at the cover of that game, like this album cover is like a reflection of that game cover, where you have like you've got a reptilian on the cover of this one, where it's like it's a gray on the cover
Martian
of the
gray
of Harry Horse's game. But yeah, fascinating figure, died a tragic and horrifying death.
From the sounds of it, it sounds like it's a wild read. I imagine it must have been a wild read. But the thing that I was curious about, because you're kind of like I would say that you have almost an encyclopedic knowledge. You always surprise me with how much information you know about video games, video gaming, particularly Japanese video games. And this one came out before you were born, and not necessarily part of kind of like you growing up and experiencing gaming. So I thought maybe you would be familiar with it, because I definitely am not. I do not know that game. It's like it seems as though it came out on PC. And it was not a console type of game.
It was a Windows 95 game. Okay. So it didn't come out before I was born, but I was 4 years old, and it seems to have been like an adventure game in the vein of like Myst and Seventh Guest, and like it had like a cult. It was kind of a bit of a cult hit, but then it was very glitchy and broken, so it kind of fell into obscurity. Apparently, it got re-released last year on the Epic Games Store. So
cool.
Might be worth giving a play. I have no idea.
Okay, you can pull that up on the Steam Deck, yeah?
I could pull that up on the Steam Deck.
Okay, shout out.
Shouts out.
One thing. I guess before we get into the album discussion, let's talk a little bit about Celestaphone and kind of what this music, what their production and what their kind of approach seems like. I don't really have all that much information about Celestaphone and his personal life experience or anything like that. Just kind of the Spotify snippet and then some of the information under like the Bandcamp album titles, right? Yeah. But as I listen to this, I think it's very clear. It's like Celestaphone is like an amazing, sonically different in virtually almost every single way, or different than most people within the hip hop space. There's like a musicality and a kind of whimsy that reminds me of Frank Zappa, and in a lot of ways, like according to the Spotify thing, Celestaphone is also influenced by Frank Zappa's concept of Project Object, which is basically just like saying that all the residue from the previous projects leak into the new, and it causes a cohesion or a lore of some sort. But when I listen to Celestaphone and like Papercut from Obit, the thing that stands out to me is how like sci-fi funky kind of like jazzy musicality on a level that seems very different than even other people who are using live instrumentation in their music, whether those are music stems that they're playing and layering, or if they have a live band, for example, like Dealers of God on it. But this is very strange music, and I think that a lot of people that, outside from like maybe two songs that are a little bit more conventionally hip hop, the track with Blue and Quelle being the most conventionally hip hop to me. I think a lot of people that you put this music onto, your average fan, even somebody like an FD Signifier, just based upon what he says that he listens to and knows of, he might not even think this is really like hip hoppy. He might say that this is kind of like a split genre of music.
And I think it's very reasonable to say that this is, genre bending and quite unlike the traditions, but you know, it's radical, interesting art, right? And then on top of that, this particular record is a collaboration with a band. I also appreciate that there was probably a desire to lean very like fully into the sort of pulp sci-fi elements, and you know, pepper it with these sort of interludes where it's just like, we're being attacked by the Zerithians.
Yeah.
Oh no, type,
Baphomet,
you know,
speaking. Yeah.
and they kind of, you know, I think there was a bit more of a sensibility of focusing on having this very sort of cohesive hip hop adjacent hip hop pure project that ultimately, you know, it has this large group of collaborators and various people on it, but I feel like at the core of it, like, Celestaphone's identity doesn't get lost in the process.
It also, you know, it has all these elements that are very kind of occult, esoteric information, leaning towards a variety of conspiratory kind of new agey thinking that you could pick up from, you know, Robert Anton Wilson and all of it, you know, Behold a Pale Horse, David Icke, the Reptoid on the cover, and just the talk of those type of things, Draconians, and like all of that seems to come through. But this album is also very extremely it's cohesive. It's like it is an album project to me, and not a stream project. Like, to me, when I listen to this album, of course I do have songs that I like to repeat, but I think it's served best when it is played in full, is kind of like a full experience. And I'm not quite sure of the actual arc of the story, and I haven't picked up all those things. I'm still picking out bars and kind of,
I mean, I do read a more cohesive political, you know, and even leftist kind of reading of this than, you know, like David Icke is like ultra reactionary, right? This is,
well, most conspiracy theories,
right.
All conspiracy theory except for like the real ones like Gulf of Tonkin are actual fucking right. But
this record, you know, politics. I mean, it's like anti-Zionist. It's got a very like contemporary, like there's a bit of a scathing edge to the you know, underlying it. It identifies the Reploids not as just like, oh, it's John Legend and Chrissy Teigen. You know, there's a bit more of a focus, I think.
There's also a bit of like a skepticism there that falls back on, like, there's lines that say like, you guys are paying attention to this, but you should be paying attention to other elements, not so much the fantastic and the supernatural in a way. But I'm not exactly sure if that is like a part of the extension of the video game that we're talking about, or if it's just like a new shape and form that Celestaphone is made for this. But one thing is for sure is that, like, without knowing that other thing and without knowing about Drunvalo Melchizedek and the Flower of Life, or any of these weird new agey even conspiratorial secret history things, you still get a plethora of incredibly like agile and dope rapping that is full of exuberance and a bunch of lines that you could take home to the bank, so to speak, as even a leftist like us. And I'm not sure what Celestaphone's political ideology is, but there's nothing in this here that really makes me like, ugh, you know, like, you're really, you know, if you like some of the other acts that kind of lean into that new age conspiracy thing. Like, I grew up on the Shapeshifters, and also I was a big, you know, I was a former 5%er, knew Waboon. I was like Sacred Geometry, Flower. That's how I know about all these things. I've got a heart chakra on my back, you know, like I know about the Platonic solids and 19.5 hyperdimensional physics type of bullshit. I learned about that stuff, but like, I grew up on the Shapeshifters, and they're very much like this, but it also doesn't, it's not so much on the nose like, we believe in the, you know, the lizard men. It's not that. It's got those type of things, and I think it makes it really fun for people, like, whether you believe in that or not. Like, it's just a great listen.
Well, there's a levity to it as well, right? I mean, the album's funny in places, you know. It's not.
It is very funny.
It's not just like, the lizards are coming, oh my god, everybody's a fucking alien, oh, be afraid, like Behold a Pale Horse, like, type horror. I mean, the horror is there.
It's not a mortal technique.
It's not a mortal technique. No.
Yeah. That's the thing too. It's like beyond kind of pinpointing what these things mean, in concept, philosophically or ideologically. The musicality and the production on this album is so fantastic and interesting, and so is Celestaphone's rhyming. And at first, like, I kind of, the funny part about it, like, there's kind of a humor, there's a whimsy, and it reminds me of like a Serengeti a bit in that way. And it reminds me, of course, he's rocking with MC Paul Barman, because I feel that Paul Barman also has these kind of views that are like, he on his verses is like the arc of history is long, but it bends towards gravity. Like Nation of Islam, Obama's like the arc of history is long, but it bends towards Sharia.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that type of like. It's very funny, and it's fucking just futuristic sci-fi funky that I don't like. I compare it to Zappa for kind of that kind of like.
I mean, it's like
weird,
retro
zany.
futuristic, right?
Yeah.
There's a sort of, because it's so psychedelic rock in places as well. You look at the intro of like Cryocrypsis Cryptids.
I'm gonna bring it up now, since we're well into it, like, and he bombs to the lyrics. Also, all of the lyrics are available on the Bandcamp, which I love. Shout out to artists that do that.
Yeah, I got them because I use Apple Music.
Oh, I don't have it.
Hell has no oxygen, my friend, and below Earth's
Well, this is Paul Barman, but if you go to like, and you were telling me that this track Chano Draco might be a reference to...
It might be a Dark Souls reference. Okay. I don't know. Like, it's... So Chano Draco is a type of spiny fish, I believe.
Okay.
But, like, the etymology is a gaping dragon.
Okay.
Which is like an enemy from Dark Souls. So
okay,
I was
okay.
like a particularly notable one. So I thought maybe that was...
Well, this album is also sprinkled with a lot of kind of modern, contemporary references to video games, to Star Wars, to a variety of things that are well known in pop culture.
Yes.
That I think that you might even be able to give a hashtag like nerdcore.
Sure, yes.
Which doesn't do any justice to anybody, really, but I think that there's a lot of people who are interested in gaming and these things that would find a lot of really fun, dope references and wordplay on this. Because the album is... But listen to the musicality, like, it almost doesn't... I feel like when I listen to it, I'm like, oh, is he just like sampling some fucking 1970s shit without really changing it? And it's just like... But no, it's like, apparently I think they're writing the music to this. They're fucking, I know that he writes the music,
yes.
Like he plans it out and plans out the chord progressions and the approach. And then I think that's when Dealers of God came in and kind of added more instrumentation. They filled it up and made it more full perhaps or whatever. But even Paper Cut from Ovid has this incredible like musicality that... Name it. Like, name anybody who sounds like this. I don't have
an incredibly
knowledge.
Ambitious record. I mean, just the density of both the production and the lyrics, and then the amount of illusions and strangeness. This first track, like, is kind of my least favorite on the album, but it's also kind of my favorite because it reminds me of this Japanese group called Yapus, who were very popular in the 80s.
It's also very kind of like catchy in like in kind of like one of like the worst ways of catchy, like,
right.
I don't necessarily love it, but I find myself going back to it, and every time the album repeats, I'm like, yeah, let's go. But like listen to these lyrics, right? He says fucking playing hat tricks is activist. Mid-rash metastasis. Chessboards been set by the teams of multinationalists. Now the only fit for y'all is to get fat. Well, I can't even read today. I've got the small font on, but playing hat tricks is activist. I want it all. I want the bag for this tragic shit. There's a lot of like really anti-capitalist, like pointing figures at like the elite, so to speak, which is very conspiratorial in every single way, but also it functions well in a satire about people who believe that the elites are beyond just capitalists,
Right. Yeah, I mean it does draw a distinction between class war and culture war in its conspiratorialness, whereas like so much conspiracy nowadays is so heavily rooted in culture war that like people get lost in the source.
Did you think that a secret that was guarded from
Who is that speaking? I know that voice.
through the 12
I've heard that voice so many times before.
Moses to Solomon?
But another great thing about this album is the sequencing and how all the tracks kind of segue into each other. It makes for an extremely cohesive listen. It's not that the tracks have all of these like beat switches or real like crazy. There's chord progression changes and a lot of things happening in the songs, but they're not the type of songs where it's like, oh, is this one song or three songs?
Right.
But it segues into other songs so easily that next thing it's more like a journey. It's like a fucking
I mean, for all its strangeness, it is 9 songs, 34 minutes.
Yeah.
It's a pretty short, breezy listen. It doesn't like outstay its welcome.
Yeah.
It's very much an album that like you can listen to from start to finish and kind of get everything out of it, rather than just being like a full-on prog odyssey for 90 minutes or whatever.
I can see how a lot of people will have a difficult time with this album too, just because of Celestaphone's voice. The production is not necessarily going to hit for a lot of people. They're not going to necessarily find it interesting or for them. But his voice is it's strange. It's different. There's nobody that really sounds like that. And also the rhyme styling is a bit left field. It's a bit left.
I mean, even like here you have like polyrhythm stuff,
Yeah.
like the beats in 3, 4, or 6, depending on how you want to count it. But then also like he's still rapping in these kinds of more traditional like line by line rap format.
To dope minds looking for demigods in man, the executives roll call a road to the one government plans. While bumbling over the same rubbles and land, they scrubbing up old Uncle Sam. He has bars. He bars out. Like, he's a tremendously good rapper and a tremendously good producer. It's really good music.
Absolutely.
My favorite song on the album is probably the one that, like, I play this so much. It's very catchy to me. I think Blue sounds incredible over the beat. I think Quelle sounds incredible over the beat.
On this. I mean, it kind of encapsulates the broader like conspiracy at the core of it, right? Getting abducted by aliens and then getting arrested by the cops, and they're like, you were hit by a car, but you're like not wounded, but also like, we're gonna arrest you now. And he's like, oh, maybe the cops were the aliens, or maybe I'm just high as shit.
Yeah.
And it's like,
you could tell that Celestaphone was like, here's the vision that I have for the album. This is what I'm trying to achieve. This is what the type of verses that I'm going to do. But you can also see that Quelle Chris and Blue are not as fine-tuned with the conspiracies or the odd stuff that Celestaphone has been, talking about on the rest of the album.
Sure.
But they're all really dope. And with this being like, listen to the beat. It's more like a loop than it is a lot of the other songs that have like musical progression, like chord progressions and lots of things going on. But like, in Celestaphone, like, we're talking about Blue and Quelle Chris, two of the best rappers alive.
Yes.
And Celestaphone, I like Blue's verse, I like Quelle's verse, but Celestaphone bombs. Like, just styling. And I think he is a West Coast, because I always like to give props to my West Coast stylers. Shout out to the Project Blowed, shout out to Good Lifers, and that's kind of like the lane that I come from. And I love how, like, just rapid fire is so dope, fucking strange, odd, and unique Celestaphone is.
Celestaphone is from Riverside.
Okay, power, bet.
I don't. That means nothing to me. I figured that tracks with you though.
It's a SoCal. Yeah.
Glad you thought of
I don't know who's singing on this. I don't know if it's
I think it's Celestaphone, yeah.
Celestaphone,
Yeah.
or if it's the vocalist from Dealers of God. But they really sound like Darren Malakian from System of a Down to me on this. I don't know what it is specifically, but the quality of vocal delivery there.
What's for real? All I got is postmodernist truth with a capital T. Facts always were an asterisk proceed. Glad you doubted me, but that's what I actually believe. Can't attack me with manifesting. String theorists don't mean a hell of a callus, but you felt them and sell it when enveloped in solid. So wherever the silence I was solid.
Bars, bro. I mean, like, he's just fucking...
Stacking, yeah. There's not even stacking, but like, I mean, there is some stacking in there as well, but it's just,
Yeah, but like, just the fucking bounce that he has over the beat and the fucking...
That's called toggling. Take it from the board pondering. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this album's a tremendous listen. A really unique project in a sea of like really good music. Like, of course, every year in hip hop like has always been dope, but this one stands out and this one is unique. And I really, for people who are fans of the genre bending or that are fans of more than just hip hop and love some even Frank Zappa fans or people who like musicality and the music like that, the album is mixed amazingly. It sounds incredible, and both the production and the lyrics are basically about the highest tier that you can really get when it comes to being able to put out some shit. It's
and you
fucking
might
amazing.
hate it. You might hate it.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Yeah, it's good.
That Russian Federation, I think compact this if I
Yeah, hold on, let me just fucking... Celestaphone's crazy, bro. Like,
Chevy Chef, Echo Ripple, and the Draco lineage. Soylent Green, Chaco Chicken can't get rid of ya. With a zithromycin, still figure you had chlamydia. Material girl, material world. Shit don't disappear. Then why I feel torn hurl? It was
peace, man. Secret House Against. You got favorite tracks on this, or you want to do that?
Chano Draco, Moscovium, Crypsis Cryptids with MC Paul Bar.
A's a low. Crypsis Cryptids, great. And also, I'm actually a big fan of Tao's Hum.
And word to Temple OS as well. That's a crazy rabbit hole you can go down in your own free time.
These squares like PCM stairs. I never see the true peak. Bit by bit, limited. Christian progressive. That's just it.
This is also incredible too. That album's just good.
Cold, so fucking old. It's not a shocker what you road. I get to talking about your show. I found the petticoats. I never keep my maxes on bridges scoop. You probably get
He's also like braggadocio and like I'm still dope, but he's not like braggadocio in like a way that's like fucking corny. It's like, fuck, you guys are simple whack.
I might start using that one. Oh, you're simple whack.
evangelist farce. Go to hell in a hand card. You feel Jones with vanguards. They turn their backs on Paul Bogle. Tax a turn an ass and on